What's up, Altino Sugar viewers? Today I'll be your host, Anna Garcia, and we'll be visiting a family, Alexis and Mayra. Where we're going to be talking about family time, about their relationship. So let's head inside. Alexis, what's up?
How you doing?
I'm great. How's it?
Good. Come on in.
Sancocho, regardless of how much you want to control it, you end up having a lot of sancocho.
Yeah. Mostly because you're doing a big pot.
And because you put all these things together, so at the end you're going to have a lot of food.
Yeah.
So I always think of sancocho as a special meal for when a lot of people get together, like kind of a celebration.
Yeah.
The same way we put all those things together in the sancocho, when people get together and it's a lot of people coming over, we think about sancocho. So I do it a lot when my mom comes to visit. That day that she gets here, I know that all my sisters are gonna come over.
So sancocho for
So
everybody.
sancocho for everybody.
Sancocho for you. Sancocho for you.
That's
Everybody
right.
gets sancocho.
Yo, it's the connector.
Yeah.
Right? It's connecting and bringing people together. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, that's what I like about Sancocho. It's that history of in the DR. You know, like.
How do you think sancocho came about?
Yeah, so I mean, this goes back to like enslaved Africans on the island.
Right.
You know, looking at finding the vegetables that were similar to the ones that folks used to eat on the continent before they were brought to the island, and and making a stew to nourish themselves. Right. And so the fact that we continue to make this is like a testament to that lineage and that tradition. Yeah. Which is important to recognize, especially for the DR, that like so much of our history, so much of like political history in the DR has attempted to erase our African lineage, right?
Yeah.
So.
That's facts. Mostly with Trujillo being in power at that time. Yeah.
But like it's still like erasing and retelling history in this way is still a tool that people use to tell this false narrative about who we are on the DR. So.
Yeah.
So every time we make this, we're tapping into that.
Yes. Yeah. And what I like about sancocho is that, you can use whatever you have in your refrigerator.
Right.
And it's a one-pat meal, very easy to clean after it. Yeah.
No, you're right about that. Just put anything you have in the fridge and just sancocho right there.
Which is like part of how we survived.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and so that's like still a piece of the resilience.
Yeah.
Right? It's like whatever you got, with whatever you got, we're gonna make something beautiful that's gonna feed us and feed the kids,
Yeah, that's real right there. That's nice to hear.
You cook?
Yeah, I do. I do.
What you like to cook?
Rice and beans. That's my favorite dish, rice and beans. But something quick that I would like do real quick would be like mac and cheese. Probably mango with a tres golpe.
Oh.
Yeah, I love mango.
Yes.
Yeah, do you guys like mango?
Yes, I do.
Hell yeah.
I only eat it with one golpe.
The cheese, yeah, that's my favorite part of like the. Can I cut the onion?
Oh yes, you can. Okay. Do we have another knife?
So, what's your favorite food?
Mine?
Alexis? You got another knife?
Use this one.
Okay.
So I think the thing that I most like to eat is arroz, habichuela blanca y bacalao.
For real, bacalao?
Like that combination with aguacate. Yes.
Do you like
delicious?
What is it called? Pico de gallo.
Yeah, I'm into that. I don't
What you
love
mean?
it. I don't love it. That's the truth.
I do.
It's all right.
I like it with some rice
Yeah,
and
yeah. I
black
love how you
beans.
read that. Yeah, it's all right.
You like it? The
Rice,
pico de
black
gallo?
beans, and pico de gallo. That was good for me.
Yeah.
But my favorite food, if you want to know, is lentil soup. I love it.
For
And I
real.
put some of these vegetables, but I cut them smaller to put into the soup. Yeah. Same vegetables that go into the sancocho.
It's like a mini sancocho for you.
It's like a mini sancocho, and it has the grains from the lentils.
Mm.
But starring lentils.
Huh?
Starring lentils.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have meat.
No, just the lentils and the vegetables.
Yeah.
But you know, I used to. We didn't talk about telling the story, but it's all good. I used to have white beans. Always used to like those, and I used to ask mommy to cook them a lot, but she doesn't like to cook them because it's connected to a hard memory for her.
Okay.
Do you want to tell the story of that?
No, I can tell it. Back in 1973, my father passed away on the 31st of December.
Wow.
And so he died like at around lunchtime. It was like at around 1 o'clock. Back in DR, that's when we eat the biggest meal. And I still remember today that the meal that my mom prepared that day, or I think it was my aunt's, because my mom was at the hospital with my father. It was white rice, white beans, and chicken. And for me, that's like a terrible combination.
So that's your favorite.
I love it.
You love
I
it.
love it's like my favorite. But I always like we every time we eat them we have this conversation and we remember, because I never met my grandfather. She was young when he died. But we talk about him, and to me it always reminds me that like food carries this memory. Right? And like food is always a thing that when we eat it or we cook it, it connects us.
So I think we're finished here.
Do we need this?
The cilantro we're going to put at the end. Because this doesn't take a long time to cook,
Right.
and we don't want it to disappear. It's just for infusing the flavor.
Right.
Like when the sancocho is almost done.
Before we put everything in, Ma, what's in the base again?
It's the meat. This time, what I put was pork.
Pork.
Like ribs cut in little pieces.
¿Y cómo lo sazonaste?
I put garlic, oregano, a little bit of lemon juice, and that's it.
Okay.
A little bit of salt.
All right. And then what's
And then I
is
cooked
it
it.
stock or just water?
I just cook the meat, and then you deglaze the pot. That's why it looks that color. It has that color. It's gonna help the sancocho
Okay.
to gain that color that it usually have. So now I put also the onion and the pepper in there.
Okay.
And now we're going to add the vegetables.
All
So
right.
look at this. We have the white and the yellow. So the yellow are the ones that you're going to put in first.
Okay. Why?
Because they take longer to cook.
Okay.
So we add this one.
So that's what's the yellow?
That's the yautía amarilla,
Okay.
the pumpkin, and the plantains.
Okay.
So we put those in first. You want to help?
Sure.
I can help if you want. Be careful of the water. Let's put all the pumpkin. And all the others. Pumpkin is good because it gives it the yellow color that sancocho has. And so we're going to cover it. If you want to start
¿Cómo
the
se dice?
pan-
¿Cómo se llama ese pumpkin en español?
Auyama.
Oh, okay.
And so,
Oh, so
don't
todo-
put that
todavía.
one yet.
Alright.
So let's stir the pot a little bit and cover it for like maybe 10 to 5
Oh, yeah, I'm
minutes.
on already. Okay.
And then we come back and add the white vegetables.
All right.
Good. So we just leave it there. If you notice, it's starting to boil again.
Right.
So we're going to let the yellow vegetables cook a little.
About 10 minutes or so.
About 10 minutes or so.
Today I'm sitting with Mayra and Alexis.
Hey.
Today we're gonna be talking about family. So, Alexis, Mayra, tell me about your relationship.
What do you want to know about it?
How was it growing up with a mother from an era?
I mean, I guess the I didn't really feel this like well, I mean, I don't know. I guess we all kind of feel the difference between our parents, the way that our parents see the world and experience the world, and the ways that we do. But I think for me, it was mostly like growing up here. Like, you know, I was born in the DR, and I came to the U.S. with my mom when I was what, like three,
Two.
2 or 3. So like,
You have just turned 2.
oh yeah, like I'm very clear. Yeah, right, all right.
She knows.
Yeah. But you know, it was like suddenly I remember feeling the difference between like, I don't know, to me, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, I always felt like you all kind of like were like a little nervous about this place when we were growing up. Like it was like not safe to be out too much, you know, like, you know.
Definitely. The neighborhood where we came to live from when we moved here from DR was not the safest one.
Yeah. What neighborhood was that?
We came to 160th and between Broadway and Amsterdam.
In the Heights.
In the Heights.
Okay,
So at that
right.
time it was
It
like
was bad.
bad.
My bad. My mom used to tell me stories about when she also came with my 2 sisters. She used to tell me stories about how she couldn't wear certain colors, like red, blue, like only like solid colors, like black, white, probably gray, because colors like that will attract gang members. So
Yeah.
I definitely understand.
And sometimes like I will be walking on the street with Alexis because at the time I only had him,
Right.
and like fights will start in the
Right.
middle of the street and people chasing each other,
That's
and
crazy.
I even saw people die in front of the buildings across from my building where we were living. So it was really
Like shootings
yes.
and everything.
So it was really stressful for me, the change.
Yeah. You know, and it was and the community was beautiful and rich and connected in all those ways, but like that was also a reality.
Right.
And I remember feeling it like when we would go to the DR, you know, and all of this is like as time is passing, but like as I would get a little older and we would go, I would feel a lot more free back home. It was like y'all were not so pressed about like, you know, what were y'all doing? We could just go and be like wherever.
backyard.
Yeah, like wherever we could just go. And that I never felt like we could do that here, you know. And I felt that. But also just like, you know, you grow up here and you're watching like American TV and you want to do all these like American things. Like I remember when we were growing up, like we would want to eat food. Like, let's go to restaurants or like whatever. And y'all would be like, eso no es comida. You know, the only thing that was food was Dominican food cooked at home. Rice and beans and meat. That was the only thing that was food. And I'd be like, but come on, like pizza, you know. People here eat like whatever. And y'all were just like.
We know what we were eating.
Of
because
course.
I was, cooking.
Now looking back, I'm like, that was really wise, right? Because, you know, we were like, y'all were not trying to like just let go of the things that we, you know, that were ours, you know, and you knew that that was like junk food, garbage, you know.
Yeah.
But it was hard, you know. I know that now, but as a kid, I was like, y'all won't let me be great, you know. Like I just like, what is going on, you know?
Right.
So.
Yeah, will let me be great. That's real.
You know, so it's like those things that you experience as like, you know, you drink this, you're in this is the water that we're swimming in, right? And so you get taught that like American things, U.S. and particularly like, you know, the sort of things that you see on TV, the sort of like vision of what a family is, like living in a house, sitting at the table, like all of that, like that's what a family is supposed to be. And so as a kid, before you know, you kind of drink that Kool-Aid, you know, and I remember being like confused about like the things that I saw, you know. So that was important, kind of like wrestling that we would do.
Of course, and that is confusing for a little kid growing up. But you asked us about our relationship, so we can talk about that a little bit. Alexis,
Yeah, of course.
Alexis was my firstborn, and is my firstborn, and we were always together. I remember that we came from DR, and I got a job, like we all have to when we come here.
Of course.
And but I made sure that I left him with someone that I could trust. So I found an angel. You remember Amparo? Amparo was like my angel, and she was a lady who lived like two buildings down our building, but she was kind of related to us because she was married to Alexis's uncle once.
Okay.
So her kids and Alexis were
They're my
cousins.
cousins.
So in that sense, I was always like,
She was like my tia.
She was his tia. So, but we were always together. Like I will come back home at around 5, and Alexis was always there with me. I helped him with his homework, and up to now we are like very close to each other.
Yeah.
So we get together a lot, and talk about crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a real close relationship.
That's
It's really a blessing.
That's
It's a
really
blessing.
awesome. Not a lot of people have that. Not a lot of people. I know that you were saying about you came from DR, and you and Alexis were very close, and you used to help him with his homework. How was it helping him with his homework when you just came from DR? Probably you didn't. Did you know English?
Well, a little bit.
A little bit. How
like
was it helping him with
like,
his homework and everything?
I took some English courses in the DR because when I came here, I have already graduated from college there.
Oh,
So
wow. What degree do you have?
I I got a degree on industrial engineering. I came here in 1987, so I was already
Wow.
a
Right,
grown
right.
woman, and I had a child already.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to read a little English and write.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't have was the speaking part because I didn't have the practice back there.
Right, like
because I
putting
was
sentences together.
yeah,
like
because
words
we
together.
always spoke in Spanish there. But Alexis also went to school the first years. He went to bilingual classes, so I was able to help him with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like coming here with that degree?
A little frustrating because I was working there already for 3 years, and when I came here, it was like if I never went to school.
Right, like you had to start all
It was
over
not
again.
validated here.
Right.
And I remember that the first job that I got when I came here was at a factory. They
Doing what?
they used to make like the pieces for the drawers of cabinets.
Oh, okay, all right.
And I was doing something a little bit related to my career because I was like in the checking that the quality of the product was there.
If it's good, right.
But it wasn't the same, I was not being recognized as a professional. So it was very frustrated, and I right away started thinking like, what is it that I came here for? I need to find a way to get out of a factory. And so that was when I made the decision to go back to school here. And I started from scratch. I got a bachelor's degree, and then I continued to
That's
move into a
awesome.
master's and all that. It wasn't easy, but
Right. So
I was
what do
able
you
to.
do now?
Well, I just retired.
Oh,
I was a
wow.
teacher, a New York City public school teacher for 26 years.
What subject?
I taught all the subjects because I was an elementary school teacher.
Oh, right, of course.
So
Third grade, right?
Third grade, second and third.
The second and third. How was it dealing with like little kids?
It was good. I loved it.
You loved it for real?
Yes, because I got to work with our kids.
Yeah.
I worked in a school in up in Inwood, 220th and 9th Avenue. So most of the students there were our own kids.
Right.
So I liked the fact that I was able to work with them because I understood them better. A lot of them were newcomers, just got off the plane from DR.
From DR. So you was there firsthand. That's really awesome. So, tell me about a situation or a moment or event where you two had a misunderstanding. Or how do you guys communicate with each other?
I mean, I feel like we have pretty good communication between the two of us. I don't know. I mean, I think one of the things that I think about with you in particular that was like a moment in our relationship was like when I came out to you, which was really stressful. Like really stressful.
Tell me about that.
I mean, the short version of the story was that I was like a hot mess in the lead up. Like, I was just like incredibly depressed, and I was like doing all kinds of things that were like harming myself, and like I had like blown up a relationship and was like moved back into my parents' house and was just kind of lost. You know, I had been living kind of, I had graduated from undergrad by then, and I was living by myself, and everything in my life just kind of like like exploded, you know. And so I was like back at home because my parents had always created an understanding that like no matter what happens in your life, you could always come back here. Like this is your crib. Like go out and do what you need to do, and we're gonna be here, you know. But I was like, for me, because I had so much stuff or like internalized around my queerness, like I thought this is like I can't tell them this, you know, like this, like they'll never understand, you know. And so I was struggling, and I was like, I remember the days in the lead up, I was like, I couldn't even get off the couch. I was so depressed. Do you remember this? I was like laid out, and you were coming to me, and you were like, what is going on? Like, because it was so different from how I normally am. And I just was in my head, I was like, I can't, you know. And then finally I got up the courage, and I just was like, you know, Mom, you know, I have to tell you something, you know, like, I don't even remember, I can't remember the words, but I was just like, you know, something to the effect of like, you know, I'm gay, you know. And you were just like,
Hey, how did you react?
Well, I remember exactly this episode exactly, like I remember, because I have gone through other stuff that was not related to you, but I remember that it was me asking you. I was asking you, Alexis, is it this that you're feeling? Do you remember that?
no.
You don't remember? Well, because
I don't remember it that way.
You don't remember it that way.
Like you were asking me if I was like gay?
Yes.
Oh.
I posed that question to you.
And what did I say?
Then you did tell me, and you started crying and all that. So
What I remember very clearly is that you were like, that's it? That's what this is about?
I know.
Like, you were like, yes, like, it's all good. Like, I love you. Like, great, you know? So, yeah, what I remember is having been laid out on the couch all that time and being like, you know, and you coming to me, like, really wanting to know what was going on. Like, please tell me, you know, like, what's good? And then, so you remember asking me directly?
Yes, I do. I remember.
That's funny.
And it was probably because I was having that feeling, I don't know, for previous conversation between you and
I feel like I was already dropping hints. Like, I really wanted you to know, but I was too scared to, like, say it, you know?
Yeah. I remember that, like, maybe weeks before that. Remember when you used to live in Long Island?
Mm-hmm.
I used to go and visit you, and, like, we talked a lot. Like, we always do. And so in those conversations, I don't know if you noticed or not, but you were, like, dropping hints. So when the time came that you moved over to my house, that was why I asked you directly, is this what is happening? And when you told me yes, I was ready for it because...
Well, I just remember being so terrified. Like, I actually thought, you know, you imagine all kinds of things, you know, because, you know, it's easy for us to... I had a lot of internalized homophobia. I had lots of reasons to believe that maybe this wasn't... that you weren't going to accept it. You know, that our relationship that mattered so much to me was like in danger, right? And you were just like, that's it? Like, that was like what I remember. Was there something like, that's what this is about, you know? And you were like...
How did you feel?
How did I feel? I just, honestly, I just started like wailing. I started crying so deep. It was like, I don't know that I've ever cried like that. We actually had to leave the house. Do you remember? I couldn't stop crying, and I was like, we need to walk.
Went for a walk.
So we walked. It was like the middle of the night, and we like went walking in the park near my house because I just couldn't stop crying. I was like, it was like one of those like, right? Because there was so much pain and so much fear and so much like relief that I was feeling that I was like, in that moment, I knew everything was gonna be all right, you know, because you just like met me there, you know. And it's not everybody's story that like, you know, like. So many of us get.
I am so thankful that you know that I had an open mind for that because it was a lot easier for your situation, for our family situation also. It was a lot easier, you know, being open to it. And I know that a lot of people, other young kids, they go through a totally different experience when they are forced to leave their home.
Right.
And that was never gonna come from me because
But was it hard? Was there any part of it that was hard for you? I've never really asked you that.
No.
Like,
not really. To tell you the truth, it was like a normal thing for me. And I don't know how that came to be because I like thinking about my own family. We never had conversations about, situations like that, like homosexuality and how to, what our thinking was about that. It was that it was just in me, and that I will be supportive for you and Alejandra, my two kids, regardless of what goes on in your life. And I don't think that is something also to reject anybody from, for.
yeah.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Not a lot of parents could say that, and not a lot of kids could say that. That I'm really grateful that you're in his life, for real. So you had an open mind, and it came easy to you. How did you deal with outsiders looking in and being like, wow, you have a gay son, or how did you deal with people commenting just on him, on your son?
Let me tell you, I didn't even open the opportunity for people to make comments, not at all. And I
That's
didn't,
dope.
and I didn't keep it as a secret either. Like, my family knows about it. Everybody knows. Even my mom, who is the oldest generation, that might have some problems to accept that. I spoke to her and I told her, and my friends, they all know too. So I didn't keep it a secret. So I think that because of they saw my attitude towards it didn't open the opportunity for comments. Never. I never experienced that. And I always speak of Alexis as my blessing, like how, wonderful he is. He's the best person I ever met. And it's not because he's here, but that didn't make him any different from anybody else. So I think that
I've seen you come for people though, online and stuff like that. Like when people are making general comments about like queer folks.
It was not about you. Yeah, I know what you're talking about because, yes, in 2 occasions I had those. I needed to respond to people, but it was more like in general. Like when I saw them referring to, like for example, when it was like Queer Month, when that is that we celebrate
In June.
In June, I will change like my picture on Facebook and put the gay the flag or something that is related to celebrating queerness and pride. Mm-hmm. And then some people will comment, but do you know that that's because they are, if you do that, you are supporting them? And then I speak about it and I say, that's what I'm doing. That is exactly what I'm doing. That is exactly what I'm doing. And then there was a guy once that he is from a church that I used to visit, that he went on with the conversation, and I needed to say, my son is gay, and it is a better person than a lot of you. Mm-hmm. a lot of the people that are
the folks, in the church.
Mm-hmm. And so that was one occasion, but it's not that I have encountered comments about you specifically.
Yeah.
But more like in general about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. How about you? How was it once you came out to your mom? I know you was sobbing, you was crying. It was a relief. It was weight off your shoulder. Now you had to deal with outsiders. How was it?
Well, I mean, it's been a process. Mm-hmm. It's been probably about 8 years or so since that happened. Just about, maybe 9, I don't know, 9 or 10, I don't know. But I had to like learn how to be a new person. Right. And I had to learn what it meant for me to be gay. I had to like get in community with people that showed me what that meant. you know. I knew I was attracted to men, that I was clear about, you know, but there was a lot of other things that I needed to learn how to do, you know, and I had to like feel what, like understand myself a little bit more and why I was so afraid to tell my parents, like why I was so afraid to walk down the street holding a boyfriend's hand, like, and really like as I got more bold about that kind of stuff, really feeling what it meant, like really experiencing the threat and the violence that's just like very real, that actually hiding that was me trying to stay safe and survive, right? And so, you know, so it's been a process of unlearning, and I'm still in, you know, because we live, this is the water that we swim in, right? There's still places in me that were like, you know, what's the word, like homophobia still lives, and I'm, you know, it's a forever journey of unlearning those things. And, you know, having funny moments, like bringing partners to family, like Thanksgiving, you know, and stuff like that. I still remember like, oh, is this your friend? Oh, it's tu amigo. Oh, okay, hold on. It's like, you know, what you gonna do? You know, like we're learning together and growing together. You know, so.
That's dope. That's really nice. Okay. Yeah, I remember me coming out to my mom too. Pretty much her response was like, I would understand if your two sister would have told me this because they have more experience than you are. You're just only 15, 14, 15 coming out at the time. You're just only 14, 15 right now, and you don't have no experience, but only if she knew.
Right.
She told me that, but it was very hard. Like the process, it was very hard, because we never like spoke about it. Nobody spoke to her about it. So it was very hard. She accepted it. It wasn't like weird or nothing. But when it came to outsiders, she would like. It was very difficult because they would be like, "Oh, tu hijo," I should be like, "Mi hija," and I will feel it because I'm a girl. I don't identify as a guy. Yes, I do wear guy clothes, but I don't identify as a guy. So it would be like, no, yo soy una hembra, or no, I'm a girl, and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But yeah, it's a process which I had to learn. Like, I do wear guy clothes, so if they don't recognize me as a woman at first, it's okay because they don't. But it was like you said, it's a process. It's we're human beings, and we're we are a student of life.
That's real. Yeah, man. Like I remember with my like, you know, there's been little ways that I've had to like learn how to hold my family accountable.
Yeah.
You know, like, or invite them to do better, you know, because it hurts when that kind of stuff happens, right? Like, and so I remember there was like little things that people do, like they'll talk about people's relationships, all whatever, out in the open as long as they're straight, right? But as soon as there's like a queer relationship or if there's about, then they want to talk about it in hushed tones, right? Like, right? Or like not in front of the kids, you know, like as if that's doing something to them, you know what I mean? And so like having to be like, well, you know, and not being able to say anything at first, just feeling how much that hurt, right? Because in my heart, I was like, well, that means that you think there's something wrong with me. I know that you love me, because that's clear. But actually, when you do that, it makes me feel like you think there's something wrong with me, right? And so actually building up the courage to be like, you know, Thea, when you do that, like, I actually need you to not do that, because when you do that, this is how it makes me feel. And then actually, like, people receiving that. And maybe getting defensive or whatever, because people react in all kinds of ways. Yeah, that's not what I meant. And it's like, I know that's not what you meant, and it's not about what you meant, right? But this is the impact that it had on me, right? And so being able to communicate that has allowed us to be, like, better to each other, right? And that's, like, part of, like, being accountable to each other, right? It's like, and that's been hard to learn, because I think at first my like, initial reaction was to like bark at you, you know, like and be like, yeah, you know, and that doesn't help because then they get defensive and closed and we don't get anywhere new, right? But it's like, you know, figuring out how to actually be like, look, like I know you're trying and I know that you love me and this is how you could love me better. People then maybe meet me. And that asks something of you, you know what I mean? Like it's not like that's easy because it's like, I wish that you weren't harming me right now, but, you know.
Yeah, that's real.
Can you think of like another time where we've had like conflict or difficult conversations like between us?
Well,
Maybe I should. I'm asking that with caution. Yeah, put it out there.
Right, right.
but
Okay.
you know, uh, this might not be like something so like terrible, but I remember that if since you went out of the house to go to college, I told you like one of the things that I asked from you was that you will stay connected like by at least sending a text message a day for me to know that you were safe, that you were okay. And then you uh, didn't comply with it, and still
She said comply. Yeah, she said comply.
You didn't
and
comply
still
with
and still today, like you are terrible about like
Yo,
answering
I feel you.
messages, responding to messages. So sometimes I go through like maybe, and this is for other people might sound like weird, but for me it is a big deal. Like I don't know. This is a need for me, not for you. I know that it is that's the case. I need to know that you're okay, that you're fine, that things are going well. And sometimes you go like 3 days without answering um, messages, and then you know how you hear from me.
Right. No, I hear that. I hear that. It's interesting though, because it's like those are the types of things where like and I'm not saying specifically this, but there have been times like early on, I may have experienced that as like you being like on my case too much. Like, why do you need to like? We just talked yesterday, like like I'm good, and so it's like I remember kind of being in negotiation around this, kind of being like, okay, so I know that I get that this feels important, and I need you to like chill and know that it's gonna be all right. Now
And I am learning, that I am learning that. Like I'm letting it go a little more now.
Yeah.
But
And I hear that, and I'm trying to be more regularly in communication with you too, because at the end of the day, like I don't want you to have stress unnecessarily.
and it's not like I'm trying to control your life. I know what you're doing every minute of your day, but at least once a day to know, to hear from you, especially because
That's so cute.
we don't live in the same home, and we are going around in the city. Like things can happen to people. I know that that's a little crazy of me, always thinking about something can happen, but just to check on each other.
No, that's real. That's not crazy. I hear that.
Yeah.
We haven't had this conversation in a while. I didn't know you still were like feeling that way. So
That's really
good.
dope.
All right, I'll be in touch.
Okay.
So, I would like to know what advice would you like to give families in these upcoming holidays?
Well, Christmas happens to be a very stressful time for
Why?
families.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
I know, because of experiencing my own family, people get stressed out about giving gifts to each other and all that. So one advice that I would give families for the holidays is that connecting with each other is what is important. So, I will advise them to provide the opportunity for the family to come together and to be real, not to rehearse anything, and just let it happen and be prepared to whatever conversations come to the table, and be honest, addressing whatever situation comes in the midst, and enjoy the time, and because that's what Christmas is about. It's about getting together and showing love for each other.
Yes.
All right, I'm with it. I would say that yes to that. I would also just add that it's okay to take care of yourself however you need to, right? Because Christmas can be a lot. Like you say, like that family time. I have a really big family. There's a lot of different energies when people come together. And sometimes like it's okay if you need to step back, or if you need to take care of yourself by not having certain the conversations, or like, you know, just like doing whatever you need to do to take care of yourself in the midst of being in connection. Like, you know, that it's okay, and that you have the right to do that in this, you know. So giving folks permission to take care of themselves however they need to.
Yeah, that's real. Thank you guys for sharing, for real. Thank you guys for allowing us to come into your home and, you know, interviewing you guys and teaching me, well, I already knew, but teaching the viewers about how to make sancocho. And hopefully we could come next time to your home. Yeah.
Anytime.